How you doing, guys? It's your boy Ed Barton here, Crush Social Anxiety. Today we're talking about Mary Jane, doobie, spliff, ganja, whatever the frick you want to call it. What is it doing to your head? How is it affecting your social anxiety? Can it cure your social anxiety? That is what we're talking about today. Okay, so first up, let me start off by making a small confession. And that is, when I was in my early 20s, I was a weed head. I was all about that weed. I was growing it in my house. My parents let me have a grow room. I was bagging up ounces of sticky bud. I was selling it. I was smoking it 24/7. I was stoned out of my tree from the age of 16 to the age of 21, pretty much 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 for those 6 years of my life. Okay, so let's just put that in context. I'm not some like Puritan talking here. I've been through it. I've smoked my own body weight in weed over the years. I blew my inheritance from my dead grandfather on buying a kilo of weed. That's how addicted I was. And like when I started off, it was great. When I was 15, 16, I found like it really alleviated my symptoms. It made me feel good. And that's why I got into it. But very quickly, that little hook, it spiraled. And within about a year, I was smoking, not socially, I was smoking it up in my room on my own. I was smoking it all the time. I was getting high before school. I was getting high during school at lunchtime. I was getting high straight after school. My grades started to drop. I started to drop out of everything. I fucked up uni because of it and because of my social anxiety. And it was all starting to get into a real mess. It was feeding each other. At first, the weed was alleviating the anxiety. Then it was just putting me in this little shell. I was getting more and more paranoid. It was making my symptoms worse. So the reason I wanted to make this video is because I see a ton of questions out on the internet, and I get asked them myself by people saying, oh, these edibles, is this going to help me now for my anxiety? What about CBD oil? What about smoking weed? Okay. And I think a lot of these questions are quite naive. Just because certain states in the US are legalizing cannabis doesn't mean it's some kind of little joke, little fun thing that you can do. Trust me, you can trip out badly off weed. I developed psychosis, weed psychosis. You can get weed psychosis. All of my friends that I grew up with smoking it, we met up recently. Every single one of them, bar one, talks about having anxiety and depression related issues. Anxiety and depression, which they believe is related to their heavy marijuana smoking when we were younger, from the age of 15, 16 upwards. So don't get it twisted. Marijuana is not a joke. Just because certain states are legalizing it doesn't mean it's like candy or whatever. It's a serious psychoactive substance. And you might think I'm a pussy saying all this, but believe me, I've been through it. I've been there. And you smoke it up to a point and then it switches and it starts to have a very negative effect on you, the opposite effect. Instead of making you more relaxed, it makes you more anxious, and it gives you like freakouts, and it starts to warp your perception of reality even more than it is already warped by your cognitive distortions, your maladaptive thinking patterns, and your negative core beliefs that you're running if you're watching this and you're suffering from social anxiety. So there's no need, when you're already that freaked out and your mind's already running these unhelpful thinking patterns, in my mind, there's no need to then throw something else into the mix, which is only going to further complicate that, distort your perception of reality, and further twist your thought patterns, basically. So, you know, I am quite passionate about this, and I feel very strongly about it. And I would hate to see people just going down the route that I went, which was basically light smoking turning into severe use, turning into abuse, to chronic dependency, to like psychological addiction, and then basically weed psychosis, and it exacerbating all of my symptoms. And this isn't just me, this is my brother, this is all the people around me that grew up smoking it with me. We're all reporting the same thing. And you got to bear in mind, I stopped smoking in the year 2003. And since then, the strains have only become more potent. The strains of, skunk and OG Kush and all that, like yellow wax and dab and all that stuff. That stuff is going to blow your mind into another dimension, which is not really what you need when you're trying to unwire all these unhelpful thought patterns and distorted beliefs that you have at the moment, right? So what I was smoking back then is probably comparatively mild to what's now available on the market today. So that only adds to my argument. And also, there is medical evidence that, and I'm not trying to scaremonger here, that weed can exacerbate a tendency towards schizophrenia and psychosis type symptoms and that kind of stuff. So if you're on the fence at the moment and you're thinking about, should I pick up a spliff? Is it going to help me? It takes a little while to get into smoking weed anyway. Trust me, it's going to be sketchy to begin with. You have to work hard to get used to it. So if you're on the fence and you've never smoked it, you start smoking it, it's probably just going to trip you out anyway and make your symptoms worse right off the bat. If you persist with it and build up an affinity with it, that's then only going to lead further to abuse and just get you further off the right path in my mind. I'm not talking about the right path in a Christian moral sense. I mean the right path in addressing your social anxiety. The more time you sit at home smoking weed, the less time you're out there approaching people, approaching women, asking for phone numbers, asking for directions, getting out of your box, going to the shop, breaking down your barriers, breaking down your comfort zone, and getting out and doing healthy things. The more time you sit at home watching movies, getting stoned, which is invariably what weed makes you do, the less time you're engaging and with the outside world, with people, with reality, and that's just going to exacerbate your problems. And one thing you can guarantee weed does do is make you more apathetic, more lazy, and more withdrawn. And those are all things that you don't need for overcoming social anxiety. In my experience and what I teach to my coaching clients is we're talking about getting your ass up at 6 o'clock in the morning, getting a cold shower, setting goals, doing exercise, defining a clearly structured, healthy lifestyle, not sitting in your underpants till 11 a.m. on a Saturday, eating cereal, getting stoned, watching Rick and Morty or whatever it is on Netflix. So trust me, it's not going to do you any good in the long run. It might alleviate your symptoms a little bit in the short term, but even if it does, it's only a mask. It's only a band-aid. You're not getting to the root of your problems, which are toxic shame, inferiority complex, low self-worth, low self-esteem, cognitive distortions, cognitive biases, a wrong, unhelpful way of interpreting the world mentally, these frameworks that you're running, the way you're perceiving yourself, the way you're mind reading and thinking in absolute terms of black and white and overgeneralizing. This is the shit that needs to be sorted out. You need to sit down and do some introspection and do some hard work and then go out as well and do some serious external work and some exercises. Not sit at home with a bong and a bag of weed, jacking off, eating Cheetos, watching TV, okay? That is my experience. It's the experience of all the people around me who grew up smoking weed and who've now got anxiety. So if you are on the fence thinking, oh, shall I dabble with a bit of weed? It's not a joke, man. Trust me. It can twist your mind pretty badly. You can trip out badly. Again, I'm not being a scaremonger. I've lived through it. I've bought, sold, grown, and been addicted to weed for many years of my life. Stopping smoking, it was one of the best things that I did. And there's no way I would have been able to recover from social anxiety if I was still an apathetic, lazy weed head. So, you might not be able to just hear it from someone, because I know people have to make their own mistakes. I had to make my own mistakes. But I just wanted to put that out there, that if you are on the fence, really, if you want to take my advice, just don't bother. Start looking into CBT, get a gym membership, work on exposure exercises. That is what's going to work for you. Not Xanax, not Zoloft, not propanolol, not weed, not any chemical substance, which are just band-aids and mask the issue. I've done them all. I've been through them all. Ayahuasca, DMT, magic mushrooms, LSD. Absolutely, pretty much any psychedelic and psychoactive substance under the sun, illegal and illegal, propanolol, Zoloft, Xanax, citalopram. I've been on all of them. and it didn't do me any good. What did me good was getting out in the real world, taking natural holistic action, rewiring my brain, building my body, and getting the fuck out there and getting the fuck out of my comfort zone and smashing my fears. So that's my thoughts on that. Please subscribe to the channel, check out suggested videos here, leave your comments below, and let me know what you think. Peace out for now, best of luck with everything, and I'll speak to you guys real soon.